What exactly is the benefit of that economic community? What is it?
In my research, I even found out that Africom has been training some soldiers within Africa, and one of the Sahel member, I think, Dumbuya,
Right.
was
A product of
Africom.
His wife is white.
Okay.
So yeah, we've not really heard anything progressive coming out from Dubai's country yet. He just held on to power, and then there's no change as compared to the Sahel alliance that you see real things happening. There's nationalization of the national resources, ownership of the country going back to the people. You don't see this
Controlling the means of production.
You don't see this in Dubai's country, no. So I'm not too confident about it. We need the total liberation of the continent and the unification of the continent. And not just the continent, not just the unification of the continent. We need the unification of the continent and African communities in the diaspora. It's a necessary requirement for African youth today to receive revolutionary education.
Yes.
And unfortunately, the school system will not give them this. That's why podcasts like this have to be promoted.
So it has to be personal.
Yes, you have to do it. But unfortunately, most people can't do it themselves.
Yes.
That's why we have to take the message to them.
Next subject is equally Pan-African in the sense that a few days ago, ECOWAS at 50 has been launched here in Ghana. Our president was the special guest of the event, and he launched ECOWAS at 50. Yes. And since ECOWAS has been in existence 50 years, ECOWAS is the Economic Community of West African States. Economic Community of West African States, but we see no economy going between them. All we see is infighting. They have international alliances, no real unity or economic unity as it is purported to represent. Our resources are being exported out
in the raw form.
In the raw form. No value coming in and all, but we still have an organization that has been in existence for 50 years. When it goes to it says Jubilee anniversary, right? Yes, 50 years. So what have they done? And the ECOWAS member, like a member of Traore, who is a West African, is being handed by a foreign power, and this ECOWAS.
A member of ECOWAS actually,
is aiding the foreign power to attack a member of ECOWAS, and they are watching. Nobody's talking about it, so I think it's pertinent we do that.
Nice, let's jump right into it. So, first question is, like you rightfully mentioned, it's the Economic Community of West African States, right? So it's supposed to be an economic zone.
Yes.
We have a common passport that's supposed to aid the movement of all the card bearers.
Yes.
ECOWAS has about some 14 countries, right? Now, the irony of the whole thing is that economic zone does not have any connecting road network, does not have any railway network, does not even have an airline to even facilitate movement within that economic zone. We do not trade with each other.
Yes.
Ghana does not trade with Burkina Faso. Ghana does not trade with Togo. Nothing of those. So then what is the economic zone about?
Yes.
And in over the 50 years that they've been in existence, one of the things that they've been trying to do has never materialized is to have a single currency. It has never materialized.
Yeah, the echo.
So then, so what exactly is the benefit of that economic community? What is economic about it?
Nothing.
I mean,
in practice, nothing.
But they're celebrating 50 years.
It's theoretical.
So
theoretically.
Yeah. You see, some of these things don't make sense. And there's no justification for it, right? Because if it's an economic zone, we should have seen some economic activities happening. But there's nothing whatsoever.
No.
We don't even trade among each other. So what is the economics about? It beats me.
Yes.
The only thing that we do is the collective sale of our national resources to foreign companies. Exactly. That is all that we do.
Exactly.
Yes. So like you rightfully mentioned, we only produce the resources in this raw form. export it in its raw form. It goes out to Europe and America. They would process that, add value to it, and then bring it back to us as consumers. That's the only economics that goes on in this zone. So you see, that is actually one reason I would support again these alliance of the Sahel states for pulling out of this cage, right? Because there's nothing economic about it.
So you think they have a future? The three group called the Sahel group.
Yeah, the alliance of the Sahel states.
Yes, you think they can survive?
Not true. In record time, this alliance was formed. It's barely a year. They already have a passport that's going to aid movement within their.
Okay.
It took us decades to be able to pass that, but they have done it in record time. Right? They are looking at how they can create a real economic zone. So Traore has started putting up some industries in Burkina Faso, right?
Because historically there was a tripartite union like that.
That's how ECOWAS started.
Ghana, Guinea, Mali.
Yes.
So
but it's just history repeating itself.
You know, they bugged the progress of such a progressive movement. So,
but then this time it's not going to happen. This time, this guy's actually going to make what you see. We speak a lot about Burkina Faso because of Traore's charisma and all of that, but then we've not paid so much attention to Niger, and Niger is a really interesting spot. Apart from being the major supplier of uranium to Europe, particularly France, when the Nord Stream pipeline was blown out by America, it was done because they were looking to build a West African pipeline that was going to carry oil and gas from Nigeria straight to Europe. And a major part of that pipeline goes to Niger. So when the revolution in Niger happened, that thing was truncated. But America had put the cart before the horse. They blew up the Nord Stream pipeline in anticipation of building the pipeline here in West Africa quickly to connect and then own that supply. But when they blew up that, these guys also took hold of this and they've not been able to do it. So it gave Russia a good grip on the energy situation in Europe, because Russia supplies about 40% of the natural gas to Europe. And these are things that are not mentioned. But this is why they are receiving all the backlash, because it's not just about taking over their country, but they've actually put some serious, they've thrown some really big spanners into the wheels of the West. And these are things that are not really discussed, but we have to bring this thing up so people understand what is really happening on the ground.
And in my research, I even found out that AFRICOM has been training some soldiers within Africa, and one of the Sahel member, I think, Dumbuya, was
a product of
AFRICOM. Langley went to Congress, the U.S. Congress, to give a report, and he mentioned that AFRICOM trained them. You see, just to use them as puppets, but with conscientism, the peoples start to use to help the African continent or their countries, and now those who train them are fighting against.
But I don't really have so much faith in Dumbuya. I think he's another puppet.
You think
he hasn't done nothing for his people. No nationalization, nothing.
So his could be classified as a typical coup d'etat, not a revolution.
Not a revolution, no.
And it must be distinguished.
His wife is white.
Okay.
So we've not really heard anything progressive coming out from Dumbuya's country yet. He just held on to power, and then there's no change as compared to the Sahel alliance that you see real things happening. Nationalization of the natural resources, ownership of the country going back to the people. You don't
controlling
see this
the means of production.
You don't see this in Dumbuya's country, no. So I'm not too confident about Dumbuya. But these are the real issues, you see. And one of the things that I am a little worried about is this sensation we are seeing today is no different from what we had happening in the 50s, the independence wave, right? So it was the same drive. People were taking over their countries. Ghana became independent. Within 10 years, 30 African countries had become independent. It was the same wave, and even greater, right? But then it was not sustained, because from 57, Ghana gained independence. Within 10 years, by 66, Nkrumah was out, and all the other African countries started falling.
In fact, he ruled 9 years. Officially.
Yes. And I say out of the 9, Ghana was actually independent for only 6 years. truly independent for 6 years. But I am worried, but I am hopeful that if we do not organize the people, let them understand exactly what we are up against and what we need to rebuild.
Yes.
We might enjoy all of these, fanfares, these energies and all of that, but then they could quickly take over again.
So it wouldn't be lasting.
That's the thing. So I'm really worried about it. But then yes, unless some of us step up to the plate,
yes,
we're going to take on
that is why we're here.
Exactly.
That is the purpose of the Warrior Kings podcast. We're here to spread knowledge, bring enlightenment. See, into the eyes of the majority.
People.
So it is only we who can liberate ourselves. It wouldn't be foreign.
No, it can't be.
It wouldn't be foreign.
It can't be.
And it wouldn't take ignorant men to do that. It would take intelligent men with action, brave men with intelligence to do that. And I think Traore is one of them. He's brave and he's intelligent. And what do you think about alliance, foreign alliance and all this? As in, can Africa do it alone? Or we need an international alliance like big giants like China, like Russia, who's always been with Africa.
Right.
Historically, we can say Russia and some few countries in Europe that hasn't shown to exploit Africa.
Right.
See, they are socialist, so they have the bargaining interest of the continent at heart, in the sense that their dealings with the continent hasn't been that one-sided like Europe and the Americas. See, so do we need international alliance, or you think Africans alone can do it?
Yes and no. Right. So the first thing we have to face is that we have no friends. Right. In politics, is only interests. There are no permanent friends. Yes. We have permanent interest. Yes. That's the first thing.
Yes.
So I'm glad you mentioned China and Russia. These are very, very interesting countries. I'll start with Russia. So, in as much as Russia would have the same enemy as we have, where they say the enemy of your enemy is your friend.
Yeah.
It is not the same with politics. Now, again, interest. If it is in Russia's interest to do business with America, Russia will do business with America.
Yes.
If it's in Russia's interest to do business with whoever it is,
they would,
because it's in their interest. Yeah. Yes. They will not say, "Oh, it's going to go against Africa."
So
then no,
let's suspend
hell no,
yes,
it will never happen.
Yes, I know.
So that's why I said to answer your question would be yes and no. Can we do it alone? I wish we would, because we could, and I wish we would, right? But in the grand scheme of things, in the art of war, it would be good to use certain strategic alliances, right? So, for instance, China today is the most populous country, right? Followed by India.
In the world.
So that's a very big market
Yeah.
for African goods. So if Africa decides to go the way of industrialization, to start building, producing,
Yes.
right, we have a good market here. That would be better if we could enter that market and then bargain with them on that basis. That would be a good strategic alliance, yes. But as to calling them friends, I would have us think twice about it, because then again, they're no permanent friends, but they're permanent interest.
Yeah.
China is a very interesting country today, and it's something that is not really discussed, but then I like to just throw this out there. What we're seeing happen with America is not the death of America, it's a transfer of power. So the system has not changed. That neocolonial imperialist system has not changed, has not died.
Yeah.
It's just changing faces and places.
Yeah.
China started off as a socialist country under Chairman Mao Zedong. We saw the Chinese Revolution, the Red Revolution, Cultural Revolution, all of those, yes. China today has become the world's biggest capitalist state.
Yes.
That is what America is supposed to be. So do we say China is our ally?
It's capitalist.
It's a capitalist state, and that's what America was supposed to be, right? But then if you look at what happened in the 90s, in the early 90s, all the industry in America migrated from America to China. So they only changed places, but they did not change substance or form. You get it?
Yeah.
So it would be very difficult to look at China as an ally today without taking into account these things. Because it's not just the country and the people, but it's the economic module that they are running. And that's what is our problem.
Yeah.
So I look at China very carefully.
Yes.
I look at them with squinted eyes, and I want to make sure we don't miss anything that's happening in the mix there.
Every intelligent individual should.
Analyze and observe. Yeah. So China, it'll be very interesting to see how things develop going forward. But like I've said, is it a transfer of power from America to the East? And China happens to be a very close ally with Russia.
Yeah.
But I say this to the people, that all that we see on the cameras is just a play.
Yeah.
These guys are not enemies. If you look at the biggest Russian oil company, Gazprom, most of the heads on the board of Gazprom are Americans. Where's the fight? Right? Yeah. So all of these so-called trade wars is only a ploy to move, again, the center from America to another place. And you see, with the Chinese example, they have a clean slate to perfect the capitalist system and module.
Yes.
And that's what they've done with China.
Yeah.
So we might think it's different, it's a rise of another power, but it's not. It's just a transfer of power. So then, to answer your question, is a yes and no. Yeah. In that I will wish Africa can do this by ourselves, and we will do it by ourselves. I hope
we should.
But then strategically, we can use other allies outside strategically to achieve the same objective. Yes.
All right. Right. So our next subject is how important is youth revolutionarism in the current Africa.
Right.
We're seeing the rise of youth consciousnness.
Right.
Regardless of the bogus education we had. For example, in Ghana, the 1992 education from SSS, sixth form to SSS, Form 4 to JSS, which literally wrote, we just copy and paste whatever. No practicality.
Forget.
Yes. But yet some youth are escaping that. You see. So how important is youth revolutionarism to the continent? Let's start from Ghana.
Yes. So Franz Fanon says every generation would have to identify its calling or its mission, and to choose to either accomplish it or to betray it. Right. So in the 50s, the generation then understood that their calling was to fight for independence,
to liberate.
and that they did.
Exactly.
Right. Yes. Subsequent generations have failed to identify what their mission is supposed to be and to achieve them. But then luckily for us, we've seen it. It's right in front of us that we need the total liberation of the continent and the unification of the continent. But not just the continent, not just the unification of the continent. We need the unification of the continent and African communities in the diaspora.
So the unification of the continent and the diaspora.
That is what we have to do.
We got to call them back.
So the total liberation of the continent and the total unification of the continent with African communities in the diaspora. That's our mission and our mandate. Now, it's easy for us because it's right in front of us, it's unfolding right in front of us. But we might miss it if we are not organized or prepared to take over. You see, that's the problem, that's the challenge. So yes, this podcast like this is going out to give education, but it doesn't just end with education. Education goes out, but we have to organize the people.
Action.
So let me quickly throw in a definition for organization and mobilization. Right. So mobilization, here to loosely define, would be the spontaneous reaction to a perceived social injustice. So something happens we are not happy about. We hit the streets. At the end of the day, everybody goes home and it's business as usual. Nothing changes. As compared to organization, where a group of people identify specific objectives. And we commit all our resources, all our energies to the attainment of those objectives. And we do nothing else until those objectives are met.
So the action becomes recurrent.
Until the objective is met. So that is organization. So our fight for independence was organization, not mobilization. If you see what we did, we fixed the country. Occupy Julobi House. And Galamsey, all of those things were mobilizations. So realize after we did all of those exercises, Galamsey is still happening, it's still rampant, even worse than before we demonstrated. We did fix the country is still a mess and still continuing because those were loose mobilizations, right? So what we need going forward right now is, this message is going out there, but we have to organize the people. And organization here means building structures, spelling out roles and responsibilities, and assigning people to attainment of those. You see, that's where organization comes in. And that is what we need to focus on right now. So it's a pressing need for African youth to become revolutionary. Yes. Unfortunately, the educational system, like you pointed out, does not give us the education that we need to be able to do these things. But you are responsible for liberating yourself.
Exactly.
That's the first thing.
Exactly.
So I never studied politics in any stage of my life. From GSS, it's been science. I went to SS, did science. Went to the uni, did science. Right? There was no politics in there. But at a certain point, I got bored with what I was learning in school.
Yes.
Something just didn't feel right.
Yes.
Right? And thankfully, we had social media.
Yes.
So I was going onto the internet, finding things that I felt I wanted to study.
Yes.
And that's when I came across all of the great teachers. So
Yes.
Nkrumah, of course, he taught me all my politics I know.
Yeah.
But I met people, master teachers like Henry Clark,
Yes.
Dr. Jokanan,
Yes.
Ivan
Joseph
Setima.
Ben Yokanan.
Yes. So, no, those were my master
Yeah.
teachers.
Sheikh Anta Diop.
Anta Diop,
Yes. And Kwame Ture.
Kwame Ture.
Exactly.
Solid.
Yeah.
Yeah. He taught. So the difference between organization and mobilization is one subject that he really taught, and it stuck with me for a long time. Yeah. So all of these things I studied came from self-study, right?
Exactly.
And that is what people need to do.
And in fact, formal education would just earn you a living, but
Makes you
self-education
empowers you.
Self-education sets you free.
Yeah, empowers you, liberates you. Yeah.
Exactly.
The traditional working system just makes you a worker. It trains you to be a good worker.
Yes.
So there's a book that was written by Carter G. Woodson, The Miseducation of the Negro.
Yes, exactly.
Tells us exactly what formal education is. And mind you, this is one of the first PhD holders in America.
Yes.
And he wrote a book telling us what formal education is.
Yes.
So, I mean, So it's a necessary requirement for African youth today to receive revolutionary education.
Yes.
And unfortunately, the school system will not give them this. That's why podcasts like this have to be promoted.
So it has to be personal.
Yes, you have to do it. But unfortunately, most people can't do it themselves.
Yes.
That's why we have to take the message to them.
Yes.
But it does not end with just the message. It has to come down to organization.
Yes.
Organize them. And then together we can build
Get
a united
involved.
front to push action. This is what we need at this time. Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right. So, Warrior King, what would be your last words to our brothers and sisters out there?
Yes. This is a historical moment that we are in, right? It's a choice we have to make right now to either be part of history or to betray it. And it's glaring. I mean, you cannot miss the signs in here. It'll be good for us first to educate ourselves, right? To then move to become organized. And then with that knowledge and organizational strength, we can begin to take over and make the real changes that we need, right? So this is an appeal to all the African youth. Social media is not just for entertainment and fun. Exactly. That is there. Exactly. But there are more pressing issues that we need right now. Get involved, because it's not just a one-man thing. There's a collective action that we have to take. It's a generational walk that is for all of us. So get involved. It's good to stay tuned to podcasts like this, yes. Follow closely, pick up on the information that we pass here. Don't just swallow everything hook, line, and sinker, but do your research, get more information on this. Join a revolutionary organization that is closest to you. Get involved in revolutionary activity on the ground, and let us rebuild Africa the way it's supposed to be for all of us. Safe. Boom.
Yes. Thanks for the righteous words.
Anytime.
Yes. And to my brother and sister out there, I would reiterate that an intelligent man without patriotism in his heart, all he does will look stupid.
Right.
But even an ignorant person with patriotism in the heart, all he does will look intelligent. So in all your doings, I implore you to seek patriotism. Love your country, and before you can be patriotic, you must learn. So we are here to give you the lead and what to know, what to do to be patriotic, to fight for your country and continent. Our continent would be saved by all of us. One person cannot save all of us, and it takes popular education to do that. That's why we are here. So this has been the Warrior Kings podcast. My name has been the Okugwa President. And follow, subscribe, watch, comment. Let's interact. Let's learn together to liberate the continent and our country first. My brother, welcome.
Boom.
Thanks for coming.
Much,
We shall do this again.
Sure.
Thanks for watching. We are out of here.
Boom.